Nate rescued a wounded tiger. Then armed traffickers came to take it back. They thought no one could stop them deep in the woods, but Nate turned the forest into a trap and the cameras into witnesses. Just wait until you hear how justice struck back, live and unstoppable. Deep within the tangled heart of Briar Hill Reserve, where the rustling leaves could whisper a dozen secrets if you listened hard enough, the wind carried something it never had before, a sound. It wasn't the rustle of deer hooves or the occasional screech of a hawk overhead. It was low, raw, like a groan torn from something that wasn't meant to cry. Nate Blake froze mid-step. One boot sunk halfway into soft pine needles. His fingers instinctively tightened around the old hunting rifle slung across his shoulder. He'd walked this trail for years, first as a ranger, then as a man running from memories he didn't want to name. And in all those miles, he'd never heard anything like that. Another cry echoed, closer now. He crouched low and moved quietly, one step at a time, breath shallow. His body moved like muscle memory, reflexes honed from a military life long gone, but never really left behind. What he found wasn't possible. There, collapsed beside the roots of a fallen oak, was a tiger. Yes, a tiger, emaciated, its ribs pressed sharp against dirty orange fur. One front paw was curled beneath its body, soaked in dried blood, and around its neck hung a rusted iron chain, too tight, bolted shut. Nate didn't move. Tigers didn't exist here, not in Mississippi, not outside of cages, and certainly not alone in the wild. His first instinct screamed danger, but the beast didn't growl, it didn't rise, it looked at him. Its golden eyes were glassy, but not wild, not savage. They held no threat. Only pain. And something else. Hope. The rifle slipped from Nate's hands and landed softly in the moss. He couldn't look away. That gaze, it hit something deep, something from long ago. His chest tightened. He had seen those eyes once before, in the dirt-streaked face of his best friend during their final tour overseas. A man bleeding out beside a broken Humvee, silently begging for help with the last of his strength. Nate had never forgotten. He swallowed hard and took a step forward, then another. The tiger didn't flinch. Its tail gave a single slow twitch, and it blinked. Once, twice, almost like a nod. Permission granted. Nate knelt, the ground damp beneath him. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured, voice cracked from disuse. "But neither should I, huh?" The tiger's front paw was a mess, swollen, torn where metal dug into flesh. A jagged shard of iron jutted from the pad, stained dark. Around the wound, old scars whispered of worse days before this one, like it had escaped something. Or someone. But how far? And from where? The questions would have to wait. Right now, he had a decision to make. Nate reached into his pack, pulled out his flask, and uncapped it slowly. "Easy, big guy," he whispered. "Just water." He poured it gently onto the injured paw, rinsing blood and dirt away as best he could. The tiger winced but didn't pull back. Nate could feel it watching him, not like a beast watches prey, but like a being trying to decide if it could believe in him. From a side pocket, Nate drew a small utility blade. He took a long breath, steeled his hands, and reached toward the embedded metal. "This is gonna hurt," he warned softly, "but I'll be quick." He cut the cord first, old rope tied around the ankle like a leash. The blade slid through, still no growl. Then he braced the paw and eased the shard out. The tiger let out a low sound, not a roar, not even a growl. It sounded almost like relief. Nate sat back on his heels, heart pounding. For a moment, man and tiger simply stared at each other. Two creatures broken by pasts neither asked for. Strangers connected by pain and a kind of mutual, wordless understanding. And yet, in that silence, Nate realized the real question wasn't how the tiger got here. It was who put him in chains and why. Because something told him this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. After that first encounter, Nate Blake didn't sleep much. He spent his nights checking the woods for tracks and his days keeping the tiger alive. He called him Tiger. No fancy names, no symbolism, just Tiger. solid, strong, and direct, like the animal himself, and like Nate used to be once. The name stuck. Nate never told anyone. He knew what the law would do if he reported it. At best, they'd sedate Tiger and lock him behind glass for the rest of his life. At worst, they'd remove the problem altogether. So he made a choice. There was an old lumber mill deep in the trees, and abandoned years ago, hidden behind overgrown brush and rusting wire fences. It had a storage hangar with thick steel walls and a reinforced door. No one came out that far anymore. It was perfect. Tiger settled in immediately. He limped at first, the wound still healing, but his spirit never broke. Nate could see it, a quiet resolve. The same kind of iron will he remembered from men who'd survived more than anyone should. Each day, Nate brought raw meat from a nearby butcher, pretending it was for coyotes. He cleaned the wound with antiseptic from his survival kit, wrapped it carefully, and stayed to read aloud while Tiger rested. He read old field manuals, articles, even a dog-eared copy of The Old Man and the Sea. It didn't matter. The point wasn't the words. It was the voice, and the silence between them. In time, something shifted. The tiger didn't just tolerate him. He began to wait for him, to trust him. And somehow, Nate began to heal too. But peace, as always, never lasted. 3 weeks after he first found Tiger, Nate was tracking deer prints near the ridge when he heard it. A low, mechanical hum. He looked up. A chopper. It moved slowly across the sky, sweeping wide, searching. Not a news crew. Not a rescue mission. Military style, black frame, no markings. Nate's pulse quickened. He ducked behind a tree and watched as the helicopter disappeared behind the canopy. Then, moments later, he heard voices. They were close, boots in the dirt, leaves crunching, radios clicking. He crept to the edge of a clearing. 6 men, dressed in tactical gear, not government issue. Their vests bore one logo, a coiled serpent around a golden globe, the insignia of Terralin Exotics. Nate had heard the name once. A shadowy organization whispered about in ranger forums and wildlife enforcement groups. They trafficked rare animals for private buyers, secret auctions, fighting rings, private menageries for the ultra-rich. A tiger with scars like tigers? He was property to them, a payday. Nate ducked low in the underbrush, close enough to hear their voices. "He's here somewhere," one of them muttered. "Tracks end near that ridge." Another replied, colder. "Blake's a recluse, ex-military, lives like a ghost, but he's got him, I guarantee it." Nate's jaw clenched. They knew his name. They weren't guessing. They'd been watching. He slipped away without a sound, every instinct burning. His boots moved fast, silent, knowing every shortcut through the trees. Back at the hangar, Tiger stood up as he entered, as if sensing something was wrong. His head tilted slightly. His eyes were calm, too calm. Nate placed a hand on the massive creature's shoulder. "They found us," he said quietly, "but we're not done yet." He didn't call the police. He didn't bother with rangers or state agents. He called only one person, Amber Hale, award-winning journalist, investigative firestorm. She'd spent 5 years exposing poachers in Kenya and smugglers in Thailand. If anyone could crack open a syndicate like Terralin, it was her. Nate used a satellite phone to reach her. She answered on the second ring. "Amber, it's Nate Blake." There was a pause, then, "I was wondering when I'd hear from you again. What's going on?" "I've got something big, an illegal exotic predator. They're coming for him armed, and they know where I live." Another pause, then she said without hesitation, "You got 48 hours. After that, they'll disappear, and so will your proof." Nate nodded to himself. No fear, no hesitation. He ended the call and turned toward the gear wall, his old backpack, field knife, emergency comms, flares. He wasn't just a ranger anymore, he was a soldier again, and this time he wasn't fighting for a country, he was fighting for a friend. At dawn, Nate set the trap. He knew Terralin's patrol routes. Overnight, he rigged cameras, set tripwires, recorded their threats, and uploaded everything to a secure laptop. Then, he sent the coordinates to Amber. By the time the agents arrived, he was waiting. Tiger stood at the entrance of the hangar, unchained, unafraid, unmoving. When one man stepped forward, Tiger let out a low growl, not wild, controlled, protective. "This is federal land," Nate shouted. "I've recorded everything. You're going down." Their leader smirked. "We don't care about laws. We want our tiger." They advanced, and that's when two sheriff cars tore through the trees. Cameras followed. Amber Hale stepped out, live on air. "You're being filmed. Any move, and it's federal charges." Tara Lynn froze. One man dropped his weapon. Another tried to run, but they were already surrounded. No one fired a shot. Justice didn't need bullets. Nate sank to the ground beside Tiger. The big cat lay next to him, calm as ever. For the first time in years, Nate smiled.